Very exciting day today. Probably the most prolific independent filmmaker that I know. I want to welcome Sarah Moshman to Beyond the Lens. Sarah, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
That's a good intro, isn't it, Sarah?
I'll take it. I was like, oh, me? Okay,
sure. Where did you grow up? And, how did that shape you, as a kid?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Chicago area. There's a suburb called Evanston, which is where Northwestern is. And it was a great place to grow up. And my dad is a filmmaker as well, so I feel really privileged to have had that kind of around in my upbringing. It's no accident that when there's cameras around and talk of production, that it suddenly feels very natural to go into that field. So my dad certainly taught me a ton about work ethic and how to use a camera. We even had a darkroom in our basement, which for those that don't know, which sounds really creepy, where you develop black and white photographs or photographs. So I learned like how to use the chemicals and how to actually create a great image when I was like a teenager. So yeah, that's kind of where it all began for me. And I made my first documentary in high school when I was 16 for an English class. Like they assigned us a paper and I was like, I think I'm gonna make a film instead, which is way more work. But I really wanted to experience the whole process of coming up with an idea, asking the questions in the interview, like picking what camera angle, editing it all together, and then sharing it with an audience. So yeah, that's where it started for me. I went to film school at the University of Miami in Florida, which is a great communication school. Film school's great, not a necessity for becoming a filmmaker, especially now. It's getting more and more expensive every year. So for me, I learned so much outside of the classroom. So like getting together with my friends and classmates and like using the equipment and making films on the weekends. I always joke that I was in Miami and I did not get a tan. I was inside making movies, just trying every position on the set, from grip to gaffer to DP to director, producer, just like trying everything. And I learned the most just by doing. And then I moved out to LA, as so many people do, as soon as they're done with film school. I wanted to go to like USC, UCLA, didn't get into those schools. So as soon as I possibly could, at 21 years old, I moved to LA. And I got my first job on Dancing with the Stars as a story assistant, which was a really amazing show to get started on because it was so massive. This was season 7 of the show. It's somehow still on the air. And I ended up staying on the show 10 seasons. So I worked up my way from story assistant to associate producer and then field producer. So footage that I was shooting was being seen on a weekly basis by like 23 million people at 23 years old. It was crazy. So I learned a ton about how to work with talent, how to work with difficult talent. Did I learn to dance? No, I did not. But actually, one of the pro dancers taught me my wedding dance on my last day of my 10th season on the show with my husband. It was really cool. So thanks, Tony Devolani. So I danced the salsa and the Viennese waltz at my wedding. So that's kind of my origins. So working in like the reality TV world, like cooking shows, dancing shows, ABC, NBC, Lifetime, Bravo, the Food Network, all those places. For a solid like 5 years as I started out in LA, like I was like a one-woman band, like a shooter-producer type, and learned a ton. And then in about 2013 is when I was like, I really want to make my own content. I want to make stories. I want to help tell stories that really matter to the world. How can I actually make an impact? And that's kind of where I started off on my own.